Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to this new episode of Sudan in Focus weekly news magazine, which focuses on Sudan news and events, aims to give the Sudan TV audience a broad and first-hand information about what is going on in Sudan. So let's go.
The chairman of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, met with a delegation from the African Intelligence and Security Services Organization, CISA, currently visiting the country. Mr. Jackson Amata, Executive Secretary of the African Intelligence and Security Commission, CISA, said that the delegation's visit to Sudan comes within the framework. The chairman of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, met with a delegation from the African Intelligence and Security Services Organization, CISA, currently visiting the country. Mr. Jackson Amata, Executive Secretary of the African Intelligence and Security Commission, CISA, said that the delegation's visit to Sudan comes within the framework of discussions on the role that CISA can play to achieve security, stability, and peace in Sudan. It also comes within the scope of CISA's mission and role, which aims to assist and support the political and diplomatic efforts undertaken by the African Union Commission to establish security and stability in Africa. Member of the Sovereignty Council Assistant Commander-in-Chief, Lieutenant General Engineer Marine Advisor Ibrahim Jabir, met with the chairman of the Supervisory Committee for Abyei area on the Sudanese side. Jabir directed the organizations and bodies working in humanitarian affairs to provide urgent humanitarian needs for the citizens of the area, calling for the importance of focusing on strengthening relations and supporting peaceful coexistence between the local community of Dinka Nok and the local population. For his part, the chairman of the Supervisory Committee, Lieutenant General of Police Hamid Mannan, explained that he briefed the Sovereignty Council member on the tasks and policies related to the Abyei file and the agreements related to the area, in addition to the overall situation and future of relations with the state of South Sudan, adding that the meeting touched on the file of international organizations working in the humanitarian field in the region, explaining that most of them are located in the states of South Sudan, which makes it difficult for citizens to deal directly with them. The Sudanese government welcomed the U.S. administration's decision to impose sanctions on Goni Dagaro, the brother of the Janjaweed militia leader, the militia's financial officer and supervisor of its purchases, for his role in fueling the war and committing atrocities and violations against civilians. The statement said that the decision is a step in the right direction and that the Sudanese government expects these measures to include the rest of the terrorist militia leaders and all parties that provide it with weapons and funds that enable it to recruit hundreds of thousands of foreign mercenaries to kill Sudanese. The armed forces revealed additional evidence proving the involvement of the United Arab Emirates in supporting the terrorist militia of Dagalo. During the operation to liberate the Jebel Moya area, the armed forces were able to seize large quantities of weapons and ammunition used by the terrorist militia in its war against the Sudanese people. Sudan supported the complaint submitted to the UN Security Council last March against the United Arab Emirates and its aftermath, with a letter dated October 11, 2024 to the Council, which included new details about the country's ongoing aggression against Sudan and its people by the terrorist militia. The letter from the Sudan's permanent representative in New York to the President of the Security Council explained that the United Arab Emirates is treating militia fighters who were injured in the battles at Zayed Military Hospital in Abu Dhabi and attached photos of a number of them receiving treatment at that hospital. The letter also included details and photos of heavy artillery ammunition boxes bearing the name of the United Arab Emirates that the armed forces seized after the Jebel Moya battle, in addition to trucks transporting weapons and ammunition to the militia bearing Dubai license plates and cards, as well as newly manufactured Emirati medicines and medical supplies that were in possession of the militia. The letter indicated that these seizures are in the possession of the armed forces and can be subject to examination by the United Nations experts. The letter stated that there are reliable reports that the United Arab Emirates is actively recruiting mercenaries in a number of countries to fight alongside the terrorist militia in Sudan, which is the method followed by the United Arab Emirates in its military interventions in a number of countries. In addition to the financial, logistical, and diplomatic assistance it provides to the terrorist militia. It explained that with this behavior, the United Arab Emirates is no longer an indirect supporter of the terrorist militia, but rather a key partner on the front line of the war of aggression against Sudan and its armed forces. The letter said that this makes it a rouge state that defies international law and United Nations system and seeks to destabilize other countries. The letter added that the United Arab Emirates is adopting a settlement project in Sudan based on the ethnic supremacy of certain groups, which threatens coexistence and stability in the region. The letter called on the Security Council to take a firm and clear position on the United Arab Emirates' ongoing aggressive activities against Sudan and its stand behind the brutal atrocities that civilians are exposed to, by condemning the United Arab Emirates' behavior in the strongest terms and holding it fully responsible under international law for its aggression against Sudan.
This is a proxy war, different actors sending weapons in and waging a conflict at the expense of the Sudanese people. Many of the players are unsurprising, are involved in fomenting conflict and violence in other parts of the world. Unsurprisingly, the governments of Iran and Russia are involved. But the UAE is a player that we have more of a relationship with, let's say, than some of the others. There are many very serious allegations about the UAE that they are actively supporting the RSF, which is committing genocide. And also there's some detailed analysis in the New York Times suggesting that the UAE is misusing the Red Crescent as a way of trying to cover for their efforts to smuggle arms into Sudan. My understanding of international law is that if this is true, this would make the UAE not only guilty of supporting perpetrators of war crimes, but guilty of war crimes themselves by misusing the Red Crescent. So maybe, Mr. Diamond, if you can comment on the UAE's actions here and what we can do to put maximal pressure on the UAE as part of a campaign to keep arms from flowing into Sudan.
The UAE, as you note, yes, I mean, Canada, it still remains Canada within the top 20 importers of Canadian military exports. And so, yes, there's a lot that Canada can do to end this, at least put pressure on the UAE so that our weapons don't become complicit that Canada's weapons don't become complicit in their crimes in Sudan.
Which other players should we be paying attention to in terms of that are contributing to the conflict?
So, I mean, we mentioned some of the other actors. Amnesty put out a report. Others have put out reports. The panel of experts, the UN panel of experts, is continuing to monitor this. Russia, the Wagner Group, and China, Turkey, Iran, Serbia. But the state that we have been following most closely, and the one where most of the entities that have been sanctioned already are based in the UAE and are supporting the RSF. And we've heard in our own diplomatic discussions, right, that without the UAE support, the RSF would collapse. And so this is, probably the biggest exporter of conflict on the continent, the UAE. And so we need to increase the pressure and actually focus on imposing costs on the UAE, not allow.
You're welcome back. Let's take you to Sudan now, which has been embroiled in a vicious civil war for nearly 18 months, during which women and girls have been at severe risk of sexual violence. Factions of the ruling military junta fell out over a path back to democracy, and the Sudanese army have now launched a major offensive against their rivals, the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The UN has said that Sudan is home to one of the world's biggest humanitarian crises, with 150,000 people killed and 10 million displaced. The BBC's Barbara Plett-Usher has been given rare access by the army to the front line and reports from the city of Omdurman.
Sudan is at breaking point. Just outside the capital city is a crossing between the warring parties. These women have come out of RSF territory. They carry bags to buy food and also tales of horror. I asked them why they didn't leave. We're too poor, they told me. We have nowhere else to go. Almost a year and a half of civil war has destroyed parts of this city and other areas of the country. One of the fiercest battles took place here in Omdurman Market. It was the largest market in Sudan, but you can see the level of destruction now. Over several months of intense fighting, the army defeated the RSF in these streets, but the capital is still an active war zone, and diplomatic attempts to end the wider conflict so far have failed. We were escorted at all times by the military, who took us to the front line. Both sides are accused of war crimes, the RSF more so than the army, charges they deny. I spoke with the commander leading the latest operation.
يعني كل القوى الموجودة هنا تكاد انه دمرناها بيبقوا هم خطوهم القناصين زي ما انتم هسه قبل شويه.
We're at a last line of defense for the Sudanese armed forces in a part of southern Omdurman. You can see the barrier here, and beyond it, less than a kilometer away, is the RSF, and in between is a no man's land where there are snipers, and we've just heard sniper fire. There's also regular artillery fire, another danger here. It's that which is claiming so many civilian lives. El Now is the largest emergency hospital. In the past week, it's received dozens of casualties, many from RSF shelling.
One of them is this patient, hit by a shrapnel in the neck.
15-year-old Sufian was working at a market when a mortar landed close by. He's now paralyzed from the neck down. Sufian's mother had asked him to leave the market shortly before the attack. But it's sexual violence that's become a defining characteristic of the conflict. One woman told us RSF fighters broke into her house demanding to rape her two daughters. The youngest was 10 years old. We've chosen not to identify her for her own safety. Then one of the men raped her. It's late morning, time for the women we met to start the walk back home. For as long as this war goes on, they have no choice but to return to its horrors. Barbara Plett-Usher, BBC News, Omdurman.
Chinese-Sudanese relations began when Sudan was among the first countries to formally recognize the People's Republic of China back in 1959. Since then, relations have amicably developed based on the principles of non-interference, respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty, and mutual benefits and equality. Economic relations were officially established in 1960 when both countries signed a 1962 agreement on economic and technical cooperation ETC, which remains effective till today. China began exporting manufactured and capital goods in exchange for Sudan were sold after cotton. However, it was not until the signing of the 1970 agreement in economic and technical cooperation and a cultural, scientific and technical protocol that trade relations were significantly strengthened. Bilateral relations in economic reached important stature in the 1990s as China became a key player in the development of Sudan's oil sector. The inflow of China's foreign direct investments, FDI, in Sudan began in 1996 and was primarily driven by oil investments. Even non-oil FDI, which was directed towards the service sector and light manufacturing, seemed to flow closely with investments in the oil sector. In 2000s, the foreign direct investments became large because China expanded its investments in Sudan. By 2010, China became Sudan's largest trading partner, and these investments had direct impacts on the economic prospects of the country. The CNBC's investments in the domestic refining capacity of the country has contributed to import substitute industrialization (ISI), which is economic policy that replaces foreign imports with domestic production and thus have given rise to other processing industries based on oil, specifically in plastic products and road construction. In 2019, China launched Sudan's first satellite. It was developed by Shenzhen Aerospace Oriental Red Sea Satellite Company. It was launched from the Taiwan Satellite Launch Center. Sudan Satellite develops topographic mapping and natural resources data for developmental planning, performs environmental and agricultural monitoring, and has intelligence and defense applications. Recently, the chairman of the Sovereignty Council, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, visited China, Beijing, for FOCAC Summit for the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, and this summit, testament to the current fruitful Africa-China ties and contributes to bilateral cooperation in a way that benefits people on the both sides. This year marks the 65th anniversary of Sudan-China relations, Al-Burhan said. From the other side, the Minister of Finance, Dr. Jibril Ibrahim, signed many agreements during FOCAC Summit 2024 in different fields, and that strengthened bilateral economic relations between Sudan and China.
Island in Sudan represented as one of the most attractive places. Tuti Island is an island that located at the Blue and White Nile in Sudan, in the middle of the city of Khartoum, and in the middle of the three cities that compound the capital Khartoum, Omdurman and Khartoum Bahri. The area of Tuti Island is 950 acres. It has lemon, mango, and many types of vegetables. Mugrat Island is an island located in the river Nile state located near the city of Abu Hamad. It is distinguished by its wonderful beauty and natural scenery. Badin Island is located in Sudan, specifically in the north of the city of Dongola, and is the second largest island along the river Nile in Sudan. The Kassenger Islands are located in the North Sudan, home about 7,000 citizens who live in the middle of the Nile River in a naturally picturesque area that distinguished by fishing and tourism, besides growing different types of crops such as palm trees, onion, peanuts, potatoes, and wheat. In fact, the island has many advantages such as economic, environment, and tourism.
السلام